Today is Friday, May 17th. And before we get to our topic, we'd love for you to send questions to us, comments to us. Send them to @NormsClubhouse, @NormsClubhouse. And we will do a question and answer session pretty early next week, maybe Tuesday or so. Now, on to the day's topic. And I'm wondering if you'd like to hear from one of the best broadcasters in our area and the NBA, the Mavs play-by-play man, Mark Followill.
And now, a word from our title sponsor.
Are all financial advisors fiduciaries? Fewer than you think. Not knowing could reduce your lifestyle. Hi, I'm Mitch Kramer, founder and CEO of Followill Financial. A fiduciary is a regulatory term to reduce conflicts of interest in wealth management. A fiduciary always works in your best interest. A non-fiduciary advisor might put their compensation or company ahead of yours. At Followill Financial, we are certified financial planners acting as fiduciary advisors. To learn more, go to FollowillFinancial.com or Followill Financial's YouTube channel.
There's been a significant development in your laundry room. Laundry detergent sheets, not dryer sheets, but the same concept. Paper thin, remarkably efficient. Just toss one into your load of clothes and voila! Sparkling clean and smelling great. And as a plus, they're hypoallergenic for those with sensitive skin. Jugs of detergent. Jugs that just wind up in trash heaps. It's easy to get your laundry detergent sheets. Just go to the link in today's podcast episode.
Introducing Star Power Smart Home Solutions, where cutting-edge technology meets effortless living. Control your entire home with just a tap on your smartphone. Adjust the lights, set the perfect temperature, and ensure your home is secure, all from the palm of your hand. Star Power has the experts that will transform your house into a secure, smart home. Experience the ultimate solution in comfort and security for your family. Get started at GetStarPower.com. Star Power, where innovation meets home.
Though he looks 30 years old, Mark Followill is actually 53 years old. And he was 30 years old when he began working on the Mavericks broadcasts. First radio, then TV. He's also an accomplished soccer broadcaster, having done FC Dallas games, World Cup games, and the Summer Olympics for NBC. First, thank you for your time. We understand how busy this time of the year can be for you.
Norm, it's never too busy to talk to you. Hope you're doing well, my friend, and it's great for us to catch up about the Mavs at a really exciting time right now.
Yes, it is. No offense to the last several versions of the Dallas Mavericks, but they did not look like tough teams. This team looks much tougher than recent Maverick teams. What's changed?
Well, I think some of that process started in the offseason. Drafting Derek Lively helped. Signing Derek Jones Jr. certainly helped. But clearly the moves that put them over the top in that regard and really changed the dynamic of the team was the trades that they made at the deadline. Adding P.J. Washington Jr. and getting him out of, obviously, a less than ideal situation with Charlotte. And then adding Daniel Gafford, who led the league in field goal percentage, is an exciting and active and enthusiastic and vocal player around the basket who finishes with authority and also blocks shots with a lot of zeal as well. So I think this has been a process, but the biggest moves were the ones that they made in February.
Luka has been battling knee and ankle problems since the middle of the Clippers series.
Mm-hmm.
Last night, he seemed to the naked eye to be a bit healthier. He seemed to be moving a bit better. Was that healing or was that adrenaline?
Oh, I think probably it's adrenaline and it's focus and it's a realization of where things stood in the series. Much like I thought that his Game 5 performance against the Clippers sort of had the same air about it. You know, that morning, if you recall, Norm, Lucas spoke at the shoot-around the Mavericks had out in Los Angeles and said he wouldn't be playing if this were a regular season game. And a knee sprain, especially when you're playing on it every other day, isn't just going to heal overnight. So, you know, I think it was Luka playing on adrenaline. It was Luka playing on focus. It was determination. I mean, there's obviously a lot at stake here, and there's a great opportunity for the Mavs with the way things look right now in the Western Conference. Obviously, if they were fortunate enough to get past Oklahoma City, which the work is obviously not done there, they have tough games and a tough series out in front of them. But I felt like it was Luka just moving well and had his mind and his body in the right place from a focus standpoint.
Mark, the Mavericks have been never noted as a stern defensive team. And in fact, quite honestly, the last several years, they were thought to be a soft defensive team.
Mm-hmm.
This team in the postseason, and even approaching the postseason, has changed. They allowed 117 to the Oklahoma City Thunder in the first game, and then 110, and then 101, and then 100, and then 90. They held the Clippers to 100 or less 4 times. What or who changed that?
Well, it's a commitment to the defensive end of the floor that started from whenever Jason Kidd arrived here. We saw them play well in the playoffs 2 years ago. Obviously, there was a stumble there last year. I would number one, I would also, or number two, I guess I would add that there's thunderstorms happening, and so I just had a big lightning strike at the house. So I'm sorry, I got a little distracted there for a second. But I think to getting back to our point about toughness, the player acquisitions helped. I think that because you have a coach that is very well respected, starting with the 2 best players in the team, there's absolute buy-in from Luka and Kyrie to their participation on the defensive end of the floor, and I think that shows. But adding Jones, adding Gafford, adding Lively, adding Washington, Green is an energetic defender off the bench. I think that they have a group that's just there's buy-in from top to bottom on the roster. There's a coach that's demanded it and preached it and knows the importance of it, because it was the same thing with the Mavericks of the past when Jason Kidd was here. They had a soft defensive reputation, and he was part of turning that defensive reputation around and en route to winning the 2011 title.
Once again, we saw something evidenced in Wednesday night's game. 3-point shooting. The Mavericks made 14 of 35, 40%. Oklahoma City made 10 of 40, 25%. And even in what looked like a comfortable win, 4 more Oklahoma City threes, and that's an even basketball game. Has the NBA turned into many, many nights a 3-point shooting contest?
To some degree, I think some things have changed a little bit here in terms of how the game has been refereed over the course of since around the All-Star break in the regular season. And so, more physicality is being allowed, which is mitigating some of the offense that we saw, the explosiveness of offensive numbers that we saw early in the season. But this playoff run, making threes has been a huge indicator of winning playoff games. And the number has been, interestingly enough, 14, what the Mavericks made, 14 of 35, 40%, what the Mavs made in game 5. The teams this year in the postseason, Norm, that have made at least 14 3-pointers are 28-4 as of the Mavericks win over the Thunder on Wednesday night. And for those who might think, well, maybe it's that way all the time, I looked at the last 5 postseasons, and the win clip of making 14 threes is about 65%. So still certainly very advantageous to do so. But this year, maybe it's the way the games are being refereed, and there just isn't as much space. And so there isn't as much 3-point shooting as we saw in the past. But if you can get that number up to the mid-teens, again, 14 being the number this year, that's been a huge indicator. Teams are winning 87.5% of the time through Wednesday night when they're doing that.
For several seasons, the Mavericks have searched to put the right combo around Luka Doncic. Have they found the right combo now?
Man, they're really close. I think maybe a little bit more shooting to supplement all of the defense and rebounding that they have around Luka and Kyrie. And by the way, I mean, Kyrie's a big part of this too. Kyrie is a superstar who Luka respects. Kyrie can take over games. Luka can defer to him. Kyrie can take the pressure off. Kyrie has championship experience. I think his mentorship and his leadership have been important, not just for Luka, but for the entire team. And then moving on from there, obviously, when you have two outstanding offensive players, then you need defense and rebounding and toughness to some of our earlier discussions around them. And they've added a lot of that. Now, part of that means that teams are playing to really stop Luka and Kyrie and play off some of those other guys. So a little bit more shooting when we talk roster construction moving forward would probably help. But this is a great mix and a team that should make all fans excited about what they're doing right now and what the future looks like too for this group around Luka and Kyrie.
You brought up Kyrie. Kyrie's had a checkered past with a more than fair amount of controversy.
Mm-hmm.
The two characteristics of Kyrie in the past were, number one, he wanted to be the centerpiece. And number two, he could be a problem off the floor. That's not at all the Kyrie we're seeing. He's fine off the floor. He's wonderful on the floor. What made Kyrie change from his former self to the Kyrie now, whom we see seemingly happy to play Tonto to Luke Doncic's Lone Ranger?
That's a unique analogy. It's the first time I've heard it characterized that way. Number one, I think that Kyrie has immense respect for Jason Kidd and general manager Nico Harrison. He looked up to Kidd as a player. He has a past relationship with Nico Harrison. I think that the recognition that those guys wanted him here spoke volumes whenever they acquired him in trade. And obviously he wants to make this work and do right by individuals that he respects. Obviously, we all change as we get older. Kyrie just turned 32 years old a couple of months ago. I think that probably has something to do with the equation as well. And this has just been an organization and a community that has been very, very good for Kyrie. I don't want to, I'm not going to try to characterize it like I'm best buds with the guy or anything like that, but I watch his demeanor and interact with him and see what a smart, pleasant guy that he is and what a driven individual that he is. He leads and has the right demeanor in the regular season, but the demeanor's changed here when I've been around him in the playoffs. There's obviously an elevated focus and elevated intensity and zeroing in on trying to accomplish something special and a journey that he's been a part of successfully in the past, obviously with the Cleveland Cavaliers in 2016. So I just think everything organizationally with the Mavericks, on the floor, off the floor, the things that they're capable of doing as a group and his realization of that, all of this has just really fit, wonderfully like a glove for Kyrie Irving.
The Mavericks played pretty well in the first half of the season. Mm-hmm. Then they made those trades to acquire Gafford and Washington. But then they started to struggle a bit, and they lost 5 of 6 games at one point. Then they played a playoff team, Miami at home, on February 7th. They won. They stopped the skid. Mm-hmm. They then went on a 16-2 run their next 18 games. Is it too much to call that February 7th game critical to this Maverick season?
Oh, absolutely. It was absolutely critical to this season because they did come out of the All-Star break there at the end of February and the beginning of March and struggled. And maybe some of it was lineup experimentation, but what they did when that March 7th game with the Miami Heat rolled around, Norm, is made 2 key changes in the starting lineup. Derek Jones Jr., who had started a lot of that great first half of the season that you're talking about, had been playing off the bench. He went back into the starting lineup, which helped their point of attack defense. And Daniel Gafford went into the starting lineup, which I think took a lot of pressure off the rookie Derek Lively. It gives Lively a chance to play off the bench. He doesn't have to worry about foul trouble early in games. And Gafford came in and gave them a presence as a great finisher around the rim and a guy who contests shots at the rim and protects the paint. And their paint defense has been fantastic ever since that lineup change and really since the trades. I mean, they had the second best paint defense in the league from February the 10th until the end of the season. So that game was critical because it was a time whenever the staff stepped back and said, things aren't going well. Everything is on the table to change right now. There was a post-game meeting after the Indiana loss that happened on March the 5th. I think there was a lot of really good conversation. It wasn't like some sort of like paint peeling off the walls, come to Jesus meeting. It was just a very open conversation about here's what's wrong. Here's what we think we have to do to fix it. And from that point forward, things have been fantastic for them. And I think the mentality that changed and the strategic things that changed were infinitely and vitally important.
I don't know if Jason Kidd has ever gotten the kind of respect he's due as a coach. Early in his career, Jason Kidd was like a lot of coaches, lost at times, quite honestly.
Mm-hmm.
But now he's made it through a couple of jobs. He's here, and he seems to be more settled, and he seems to be more focused on the individual needs of the players on his roster. Is this just a guy growing up in his job?
Some of that is the case, yes. Jason, however, has always been very quick to tip the cap to Frank Vogel, who was the head coach of the Lakers when they won the title in the bubble in 2020. Jason was an assistant on that staff. Jason, by his own admission, said he probably went too quickly from player to the big chair to being a head coach, because remember, he retired with the Knicks, went right into being the head coach for the Nets, and then moved on to his 4 years with the Bucks. So his time with Frank Vogel has been instrumental by his own admission, because he learned more about communication, particularly about communication between head coach and high-level star caliber players. And I believe that Jason is also, much like Kyrie Irving, Jason's in a situation that is good for him, and there are things around him to succeed. There is a place here that obviously he has a great affinity for and desperately wants to succeed. I think his past relationship, obviously, with individuals in this organization, starting with, at the time, majority owner, now minority owner Mark Cuban, his past relationship with Nico Harrison. I think it's a lot like Kyrie. Yes, it's getting older and maturing. It's learning from people around you. And then it's coming to a situation where you feel good because of things that have happened in the past. And you've got a group around you from top to bottom in an organization that's invested in your success.
And finally, Luka's coming off an awesome season.
Mm-hmm.
If you combine points and assists and rebounds, you can make a case for this being the best all-around season ever in the NBA. And yet, that season only got him third in the MVP voting. Mark, Luka complains a lot. He gestures a lot. He has, when things aren't going well, sour looks. Do you think that's cost him votes in the MVP voting?
Hard to say, but I think if you base it on things that other individuals who do vote in it have said, yeah, it probably has. It probably has hurt him. I think as it relates to this year, I think that there was, there's a lot of like voter fatigue and things along those lines. There's some weird dynamics at play with the MVP. And I used to get to vote on it. The league doesn't let the team broadcasters vote on these awards anymore because contracts and incentives and raises and things like that are tied to it. And they just, they feel like there's a conflict of interest there, whatever. But I think that, last year, Jokic and Denver won the title. The previous season, obviously, they did not vote Jokic a third straight MVP. It was Embiid. It almost seemed like that we were destined for a make good this year. And Jokic and Denver obviously had a great season. And I think that sort of seems like the way we were headed all along. For the Mavs, unfortunately, they did stumble in the middle of the year and the record dropped down close to 500. I think they got within 3 games over 500 at 26 and 23, right before things started to turn around and Kyrie got healthy and the trades were made. And I think languishing down there at 8th or 9th for a significant chunk of the season, 7th, 8th, 9th place probably cost Luka votes because the cake was baked already at that point, and there wasn't any going back and changing any minds as things improved for them at the very end of the season. Everybody sort of had their mind made up. But to your question, I'm sure, just based on what people have said, I guess that's probably cost him some amount of support out there among MVP voters. But hopefully this playoff run and the amazing season that he had puts him in a really good position for next year in that regard.
Mark, we appreciate your time and keep broadcasting victories.
Well, I will do everything I can to help things get along here in this playoff run. It's been a lot of fun broadcasting the games when I've been able to, watching the games like everybody else here. And it's been good times, Norm, for sure. And hopefully the train keeps on moving.
God bless you, my friend.
You got it, Norm. Take care. Great to talk to you.
Today's episode brought to you by Fluent Financial, Retire Sooner, Better Lifestyle, and by Star Power, Love Where You Live.
Just Wondering is a production of DSP Media for FanStream Sports. You can find Norm's show along with other great programming at fanstreamsports.com.
Thank you for listening to today's episode. If you enjoyed it, hit follow. And every weekday, a fresh new episode of Just Wondering will be delivered right to you. And if you enjoy this podcast, please share it with a friend. Finally, should you have questions or comments, please share them with us by going to X and our address at Norm's Clubhouse. That's Just Wondering with Norm Hitzges. And every day, I'll be just wondering about something.
And I'm Mary Hitchkus, and I'm just wondering too.